Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast. I'm Ivanka Magic.
My name is Michael Forrest. Ivanka, I noticed you didn't describe the podcast.
No, I forgot to.
What is this thing?
This podcast is imagine if you had gone down the pub with a couple of your friends and you were having a lovely chat with them. That's what this podcast is. We give ourselves a topic though. It's a really focused pub chat.
With notes, where we take notes.
And we try and read something.
Yes, well, I don't know about that. But,
well, yeah, I think we did in the beginning. I've got no time.
Well, I there's an episode I want to do. I want to do law, and that's one where I really feel very underqualified to talk about it. But I have maybe got a friend who might be able to come on in a future episode and sort of like be an umpire in case we're talking too much shit. Guest umpires, maybe that's the next thing. Okay, this week are we really doing this? This week we're talking about Brexit.
Yeah, I suggested Brexit. It is. That is true.
It seems it's grand to us, but
it's grand.
I sort of feel like we'll title it Brexit, but maybe it means so much more than that, doesn't it? There's so many facets of this, I suppose.
This is why I think it has to be. We have to have it underlined on one of our. It has to be a topic. Because,
okay, all right.
I really do. I think it's going to slip by. It's just going to. It's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's like the normalisation of bullshit thing. Like that's why I recorded those songs back when it happened, because I was like, I need to remember this feeling somehow, because I just feel so betrayed and I feel so kind of like. Anyway, we can get into that.
Yes.
Brexit. There's a lot to talk about, like global unity and the lack there, the opposite of that. There's the sort of xenophobia. There's media. There's flipping technological manipulation and big data. And lots of things we've covered, I think, in different ways. But I guess, we'll bring a lot of things together under this one thing and just try not to forget about it, because that's the risk, isn't it? You just kind of go back to your daily life and stop thinking about it. So we've got to keep thinking about things.
We do.
And that's why we're doing the podcast. So let's go. But first, well, we're doing a double record, so the how was your week is a little contrived. But have you got anything you want to kind of chit-chat about? Like,
I know what I should tell you about. I should tell you about the fact that we are in Sutivan still, and this week we are being visited by a family of 5 Canadians, mother, father, 3 children, who we met when we were travelling on our big motorcycle trip.
Oh, wow.
And we met them in a bakery on an island called Haida Gwaii, a.k.a. the Queen Charlotte Islands, which are off the coast of Canada, off the coast of British Columbia. And we were in a bakery on a rainy day, and we just got chatting to them. And they're like, hey, we're in this campsite, come join us. And we were travelling on a motorbike, so we had a tiny little bottle of vodka. And they had 10 families all travelling together, this massive, all RVs and big tent. They fed us, they watered us, they got us drunk for a couple of days. And then they invited us back to their place in Smithers, British Columbia. And we had a few days with them, a few really fun days. The kids were 13 then, now they're 20.
Wow.
And their grandpa took us, he said, used his workshop to do an oil change on our bike. And then he goes, oh, do you want to come for a burn-up? I was like, a burn-up? And then he took us out back and he got a helicopter. And he took us on a helicopter ride. And we saw grizzly bears from the sky. And we just had a really lovely time with everybody. And then we carried on our travels. And they were doing a European trip. And they made sure Brach was on their itinerary.
Wicked.
So I've been hanging out with them this week, which has been a lot of fun. It's been very nice. And they listen to our podcast, so thank you very much to Canada.
We'll look for the little British Columbia colour bit in the map and we'll know who it is. BC.
So yeah, that's been a lot of... I like hosting. I like people coming to visit. I like people. Not all people, though. What about you?
Well, I've got a couple of things. But first, I want to play this message this guy sent me the other day. So this is the guy who I tried to get his bitcoins. That didn't really work. He's got a penchant for sending me voice messages on the Facebook Messenger rather than actually typing the message, but which means I have an audio recording. And I think I was being quite snippy with him after after the whole thing was just like, okay, I feel a little bit messed around by that. I think you could have been a little bit more honest, but I was being a bit snippy with him. But like we were talking about some stuff, and he sort of sent me this message, which, well, I'll just play it. This relates to music, my music playing.
Yeah, I know what I was telling you. I was going to tell you. For your show, you need a sidekick. You need something that, okay, you have the little squares there dancing around. That might be your sidekick. But, you have to make a show of it. You have to basically, I don't know, there is something else. You need another element to this thing. Because, you do your thing and people listen to what you do, but looking at you is not that great, to be honest with
you. And I'm like, thank you. And like my sort of response to him was like, you have now caught up with my thinking of 15 years ago. I still haven't figured it out. I sent him a link to my Leaving the Laptop video, which is all about the live electronic music performance and this stuff. But I'm like, well, I mean, that's exactly the fucking the nail on the head. Like, I'm not a drama guy. I'm not a theatre guy. But yeah, I just wanted to play that because it's like sorry, I don't want to put a big mouse head on. I just want to, so I'm feeling a bit annoyed about that, but also just like, what am I going to do? What can I do?
What are the best, what can we, there's the, what they call the German ones, Kraftwerk, they do their whole...
It's also contrived. It's like, I like live performance, and what I'm feeling good about at the moment is that...
Performance is contrived.
What performance?
Performance is live... performance. I'm waving my hands in the air like my daughter does
I
me.
know. But like, I want the music to be real. I want the music, like the thing that's magical to me is when the music could only have been in that moment, and like it's not. But yeah, performance is off. The other kind of performance where you repeat something over and over and again has never really appealed to me that much. Well, I did like it when it was part of a band, but on your own, it's like, well, the end point of that is you press spacebar and a canned recording comes out and it sounds perfect and everyone dances, but then you have to come up with some contrived light show to go behind it while you just stand there sort of pretending to adjust a knob here and there. So I've kind of got to the point where I'm doing a genuinely live electronic performance, but like it's kind of a head down thing, and I kind of prefer that, like I think more than me trying to kind of like sing along to something that's a bit more of a backing track. But holy shit, like
You told me when we were doing one of these early podcasts, Ivanka, you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that this is a performance.
Yes. Yeah.
So, Michael, let me tell you something. Michael, you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that music is also a performance. I don't know, maybe you could
contrive something.
Do something on the top of your head. Have some sort of, I don't know, animation playing. So you've got your little squares dancing at the front, and then you've got like some... like Google, I suppose Snapchat or wherever it does. I've never opened Snapchat, so I'm only guessing. But, like crazy ears and shit.
I did do that on my Twitch channel. I made a little peanut face go up. You can see that on my YouTube. I made like a video like app to stream the video to my laptop so I could stream it. But then I also started adding in like face detection stuff that got weird. But actually, like, so I'm going to do now, and I've realized. So I've got this squares.tv domain, and something I've realized I want to do with that is I've got my little dancing characters, but I think it'd be quite easy to expose the interface for people to make their own characters and make them their own dances, and then I could have people virtually dancing to the music and sort of make that a bit more of an interaction. Yeah.
I can't remember the name. I tried to get a Radio Ben type thing going at Canonical with a few people that are working all over the world. And we had a lot of fun with this website where you'd have a little avatar dancing. So we took it in turns to play music, but then you could see your avatar really going for it or not, which made the whole thing much more interactive. Probably not the best use of work time. but
what website was it?
Oh,
The
I
one with the
can't-
dancing elf type thing,
They
or was it
weren't
one
elves. I'm
with
gonna ask-
you made? Was it cartoon things?
I think they were cartoony. They were.
Right.
It was definitely animation. There was nothing. Sorry, it wasn't animated photos or anything. It was cartoony. It was avatars, my bet. But like those mini me avatars. It was a bit more like that. But that was fun. So maybe everyone could have their own little square dancing.
Yeah, exactly. And I
that's
think
a good
that
idea.
could be a really fun thing. And then that's a medium then, but like of dance. I've not heard of someone doing like virtual creating dances kind of like there's dancing on camera and sharing those. That's huge musically is kind of that. I'm going to kind of mime some things. But I like the idea of like people on Twitch and on the internet and like kind of like computer game type people being able to kind of come up with some funny little dances and share them and I can make them say little things as well. I can maybe charge people to have a speech bubble because they'll abuse it.
What's Twitch?
Twitch.tv is a streaming it's a video streaming platform where people play computer games and other people watch and chat, and it's mad. I started doing music on it because I just was really it was when I was in Berlin and I was just on my own a lot, and actually like it's really nice because suddenly you're in a chat room with loads of people watching someone play a game, which sort of like when I used to have housemates and used to sit in the living room and watch them play a game was quite a normal thing. But it just means there's something visual going on, and then like depending on who's kind of hosting it, and they'll have like green screen backdrops, so they're kind of like superimposed over the video, and they'll have their little kind of someone's a follower, someone's a subscriber, someone's just donated to it. And people donate money, like they donate like $50, $100 to these streamers, like as they're just going, and they'll be doing it for like 4 hours at a time, and just playing a game and just talking and responding to chat, and it's really, but it felt like the Wild West. It's a really kind of interesting medium, and that was before, and then Facebook Live and all these other kind of platforms. Now you can kind of do it everywhere, but like Twitch was really kind of like the first place that was a big thing. What was my point? But yeah, I'm thinking like maybe if I'm happy enough to watch virtual dancing, then I can stop beating myself up about not booking gigs so much, because I'm not a guy that's going out clubbing every weekend. So I'm not with those people. So it's weird to try and contrive a thing where I'm going to be able to do that. So if I can find a way that I can do it kind of, on my own terms a bit more, then maybe that's a bit more comfortable for me. I don't know. Yeah, so I think that's a platform that I'd quite like to. I'm going to kind of put some time into kind of developing that, I think.
I miss when Google Hangouts used to let you do, crowns and
silly stuff.
Because I think it was great for me. If meetings were getting stressful, it was also a good way to make everyone go, come on.
I like that stuff because it really, once it's a video camera, then it opens up so many possibilities. And I used to have this thing: if you type /applause, it would play an applause. If you could type /boo, it would boo. You could type /bread, and it would drop bread on me. And people just used to like doing that. There's just bread coming down the screen because I made this like bread bin game years ago, and I still had like the code for that, so I just kind of made that work. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. But trouble is that like playing live music is much more intense than playing a computer game, so it's hard to sort of sustain 4 hours of that. Like I've done it for 4 hours before, but I was like, cripes at the end of that. The other big thing, we're recording this in advance, but when this goes out, it will be the day after yesterday was my 40th birthday.
Oh, when's your birthday?
4th of June 2018. 40. Michael is 40. And that's it.
Happy birthday, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
For many, many happy returns. Many more happy birthdays to come.
Let's talk about
Brexit.
Let's talk about fucking Brexit, shall we?
Yes. Why did I think...
What does it mean?
I don't know what it means. I am concerned that more people aren't concerned.
What's going on with it? Like, I don't even know what's going on with it. Like, there's a date now, is there? And
I think,
Seems like no one knows.
well, I think they do know, but nobody wants to admit.
They do know.
I saw yesterday something from Mark Carney, who's the head honcho of the Bank of England, who said that every family in Britain is £900 a year less well off, and Brexit hasn't even happened yet. So
Right. That's a flat screen TV.
that is a flat screen TV. If that's what you're into.
You
That's
could
how
have
you
had
measure things.
if you hadn't voted for Brexit.
Which I don't know how much PlayStation is these days, but maybe it's a couple of those. But,
Yep.
it's a significant amount of money, and it hasn't happened yet. And I think part of the reason that made me think about this as a topic is that I was driving across Europe for 2 days to get to Croatia. I could use
Shenzhen zone.
all my roaming minutes. There's no difference. There are, because I understand that there's a number of people who voted leave on the grounds that free trade is not good for the bottom line for many people's wages because it creates too much competition about salary. But we can address that in different ways, like having minimum wages, like having living wages, never mind minimum wage.
Yeah.
We can have, there is so much more positive about this lack of obsession with national borders. Like driving across Europe, when I was a kid, when we used to do this journey, it took 4 or 5 days because every single border that you had to cross, so you've got to go from Britain to France to Germany to Austria to Croatia, well, Yugoslavia then. Every single one of those borders, especially in the summer holidays, you'd be there for a couple of hours.
Right.
It's just that sort of the physical amount. And now if you drive along the motorways, you may see a sign saying, welcome to the Bundesrepublik, or welcome to Austria, have you bought your vignette? And then you sometimes see these old, what used to be the border buildings. And it's like, for us, how are they going to negotiate for us to move freely? These are the things that impact me immediately. Never mind the economy for a moment. Just like going on holiday, being able to travel, being able to not have a massively expensive mobile phone bill at the end of my holiday, being able to slack you from a van on a motorway. That's quite cool, using my data, not having to pay more money. These are the sort of enjoyable things that have come from this European free movement of people.
Yeah, stuff that should just be that way. And it's like national borders, they're just admin, just pointless admin. It was like, wow, you got rid of a load of pointless admin. Like, we're not scared of each other anymore. And we're not scared of like someone taking, that the EU is this higher sort of organisation that means you're not just going to like steal each other's land and behave in these tribal ways. So if you cannot have to spend all that money on admin and defence by just having agreements as people, then just you free up so many resources and so much. Maybe you take away some jobs. I don't know. Is that like a thing with it?
Is that what they... is that, and then the people talk about, we need to know, because one of these phrases that really brings Brexit to life for me and is this hostile immigration environment business that the UK seems to be employing. So, we've seen it with Windrush. We constantly see all these stories about, this woman who's Canadian who married an Englishman 27 years ago and suddenly they're not letting her use the NHS, even though just because she didn't do her paperwork. And we're going from a country where really Britain has always been low on paperwork. Compared to the rest of Europe, we don't have ID cards, we don't have all these things. And now all of a sudden, people who have never been required to, because a minority, and it is a minority, and I don't believe everybody who voted Brexit is a racist who doesn't want immigration, but the sort of the scary headlines rhetoric stuff has made the government implement a bunch of this. Who in 2018, as a civilized Western European country, has a hostile immigration environment designed to put people off coming there, bringing their talent, bringing their qualifications, bringing their skills, bringing all the contributions they bring to our environment. I read this letter the other day. You can see that my Brexit rage is building. But the man who illustrated the Gruffalo is a German citizen who has lived in the United Kingdom for the last 20 years or whatever. He's illustrated the Gruffalo. He's illustrated, I don't know how many, but many, Room on the Broom, all these favourite British children's stories that are the signifier of many a young person's childhood now, illustrated by a German who has not been told that he will be allowed to stay in the country. We are being so offensive as a government. We are not even extending people the common courtesy of saying, you've lived here for 20 years, you've contributed taxes for 20 years, you've illustrated some of our most loved children's stories, but you know what? We're still not ready to tell you whether or not you are allowed to live in our country and how we're going to deport you. We're going to collect them all up into detention centres. Nobody knows anything.
Nothing is more stressful than uncertainty in this world.
Nothing
is more stressful than, if you don't know when you're going to lose something, or if you don't know if you're going to lose something, you can't make any plans, you can't do anything. So it's the most sociopathic thing you could possibly do is to leave this open and open and open, extend it. No one knows what's going to happen. And I saw a van at the end of my road the other day that with immigration control.
Yeah, I saw one in Brighton.
It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, I saw one parked outside the police station in Brighton. I have never, which was an immigration control unit. I have never ever seen such a van. I understand that we cannot have, people who've migrated illegally to the country who are under the radar, who are not paying taxes, blah, blah. I understand that but this is just, it has this horrible feeling around it. Do I need to start carrying my passport around with me? Because when they stop me in the street and they say, what's your name? And I go, Vanka, they're going to go, well, where have you come from? Where's your passport? Yeah,
and Sharon's Italian. She hasn't got a British passport. It's like, she's like, do I just apply for, she's been here since, as in London as long as I have.
Yeah. At what point does she have to now apply for indefinite leave to remain? How does she prove it? And the amount of
I think we just go. We'll just go. If they start fucking about, I'll just move to Europe. I don't care. I'll get an ancestry visa on my Irish grandparents. Right? I'll get an ancestry EU visa and I'll just go. Fuck this place. If you're going to make that the conversation, this place is not the place I thought it was. I always, when I hear Europeans kind of talking in sort of nationalistic terms, Italians always do this. I'm I always sort of felt a bit, I was like, well, I mean, that's a bit like back, I try not to think about cultural stereotypes and things. And I always thought that was a British thing. We were maybe a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of racism and kind of generalization about countries. And it always seemed a bit racist to have a British, George Cross. Just even if you see a Union Jack, it's like, oh, that's a bit racist. The whole idea of defining yourself by your nationality seemed really back, and then just to learn that, oh no, we're bad, we're worse if anything, because we've acted on this and it's messed up. And now and I go into work the next day and it's I've suddenly got to think about what country anyone's from. And there's someone from China, someone from France, someone from Hungary, someone from, I'm there's one British person in this room. Who gives a fuck? All you're doing is making it extra paperwork for me to hire someone or make this thing happen. What value does this have other than just retrograde, expensive process of digging your heels in against something you cannot stop? You cannot stop globalization. No. You're just being stupid.
Yeah. The sort of economic side of this, we were walking around Split yesterday being tourists, and Europe now has this sort of homogenous mass really of shops and things Zara's everywhere, and you go into one of those random shops that sells, this is the box for my very healthy snacks and all these things that you've seen in Brighton and now you can see in Split, and it doesn't really matter where you are, you can buy the same thing. So you can go to IKEA, But So that, I can kind of understand this desire to maintain some sort of cultural heritage, but globalization in this world has some positive connotations. You learn every time you travel to somewhere new, I think. Being able to move, being able to travel, being able to go and meet different people with different experiences is a very valuable thing.
The fucking privilege of being an English speaker in this global, you can go anywhere in the world and speak English and you'll be all right. And you're still going to be about it.
You're not going to be able to do that. So there's uncertainty for our European brethren who live in our country, but there's uncertainty. Go on.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll come back to uncertainty, but I just want to say, it's mathematically proven that cooperation is a better strategy than kind of trying to take as much for yourself and not cooperating. Long term, cooperation is mathematically better. And yes, there will always be short term kind of bumps and things happening that you're uncomfortable. Yeah, change is uncomfortable. That's why you're scared. That's why you're worried, because things are changing. But you can't stop the change. You're just making a different sort of change that's much worse.
Yeah.
So, uncertainty.
But the uncertainty is not just the uncertainty element isn't just present for our European brethren, though I wouldn't want to be in their situation. It's also sort of people who live in the UK who are EU citizens. But there's also for us, for example, if we take the financial services and the amount of tax they contribute, if any percentage of them decamp to Paris or Frankfurt, we've got what are we going to replace that tax income with?
Yeah,
it's gone.
Do you think
There's
it's just
no plan. It's idiocy to have allowed this vote to happen with no plan. What is the plan? That's what I want.
No, it's a decision that shouldn't have been put to a fucking vote in the first place. But it just seems such an obviously stupid thing that why would anyone vote for? It was just it felt like admin. I felt like I was doing someone's job. This is not my job to make this decision in the first place, and it's a fucking stupid question to ask. But okay, fine. I'll go into work late and go and do this fucking thing, and you've just given power to ignorant people or people that are being manipulated into,
but if
again,
you put it to the vote, going back to Ivanka's ongoing use of children to illustrate political decisions, Ivanka patronising the world. My 3-year-old likes to make decisions and feel like she has control over her life. So when she wants to get dressed in the morning, she wants to choose. If I left it entirely to her, she has no clue of what the consequences are of wearing inappropriate clothing for the weather. So I do give her a choice, but I give her a choice of 2 sensible things. Do you want these leggings or these leggings? It's not like, do you want these leggings or this swimming costume? It's here's 50 things that you could wear. These are winter clothes. This is the selection box we are selecting from. Within this, you have control. I would be being a bad, irresponsible parent if I let you go out in the winter with your swimming costume on.
And David Cameron, he took he didn't realise what a risk he was taking for this little political, it was a little, I'm going to do a little political thing to try and just kind of put something to bed, and he just didn't realise.
But I think, do you know what I think? That is a total lack of awareness.
He must be so disconnected. Even though, isn't he going around talking to people to normal? Isn't it part of his job to go and get a feel for?
I think it's deeper than that. I think he comes from a wealthy family. He has inherited wealth, and I think in those circumstances, you do not understand what it means to not have. You don't.
Power,
he will
control,
never suffer.
money,
His family won't be hungry. His family won't be going to a food bank. His family will be able to afford a private doctor. His family will be able to fly somewhere, pay for a visa application, blah, blah, blah. There is a level of protection that his wealth affords him that many of us do not have and will never have.
and there's a framing of the sort of immigration thing, which you can either say, oh, they're stealing our precious resources and taking our healthcare for nothing. Or you can say, we are so privileged, we have so many resources that we can afford to help. Shouldn't we feel good about being able to help people from all over? Like, if you just, like, psychologically, if instead of the Daily Mail kind of going, they're taking all your stuff and it's their fault that everything's horrible, like, if you went, look what you're giving to these. It's like when I said that thing of when I kind of put my bike out and just left it, I was like, oh, I'm sad that my bike's gone. But then I was like, no, I'm happy that someone's got a bike. Yeah. And even with the passport thing, it's like, well, now maybe, I'm sort of annoyed if it's been sold to some crime ring, like whatever, but maybe it helps someone get into the country that couldn't. Maybe it helps a refugee, so, it could. I'd be annoyed if they open a bank account and I can't do things because they can. But like, like, we don't have to see everything as a zero-sum game, and we don't have to see everything as,
Well, yeah, I think that we've got this, like, what's wrong with having the international reputation of being the kindest country, the most
being a country where you can go and we'll look after you. We won't be racist.
Yeah, we won't discriminate against you.
We won't make you fill in a million forms.
Well, fill in some forms, but don't belittle people. Don't abuse your power. And I think, but maybe this is a situation, it's quite interesting to have a Brexit conversation after a power conversation, because to some extent, I'm not sure the UK understands how little power it has in the world. Yeah. We're a very small little market.
We go from a profound voice of, I don't know, like one of the largest, most powerful things in the world. We come from unions. I don't we had a voice, and it was. What was that thing? Yeah, we were kind of defining things, and it was us that said, like, well, we should charge people if they try and leave. And now people are complaining that you've got to pay to leave. That was our idea, because we didn't want, like, Turkey to, like, mess about or this and that. Yeah, we've gone to a shitty little island, if we're out of this. And the things that we do have that make us unique will just move somewhere else. Like finance, like creative industries, tech industries. Yeah. Well, no one's going to do it here now.
Or, the sort of cool Britain that attracts cool creatives it won't exist. If we can't have one thing that makes British creativity so, creativity coming out of Britain amazing, I think, is the contribution, the sort of the people flying into work from all over the world. We definitely have a sort of a call about us.
We watched Paddington 2.
Oh, did you?
As we were kind of staying up all night for our flight, we watched Paddington 2, which was quite fun to watch because it's so much based in near where we live. It's quite cool because it's like West London. But they were kind of like introducing London, but in their introduction of London was, here's this person, this Indian person, here's this person from this country, here's this other person. And it was just like, there was no like English person. If anything, the English person was sort of like the busybody. But like they were like, this is London. Isn't London amazing? They kind of really went, they showed that like that it's just people from anywhere, and that's the point of it. What makes it great is no one belongs here. No. Which means everyone does. Yeah. So if you start like discriminating based on where you're from, then it's not London anymore. It's some other like shithole that, what has it actually got going for it? If not that, I don't know.
Well, there's a risk of us sleepwalking. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what machines in government are or what wheels are turning. But I think as a general population, we are at risk of being sleep marched just literally off a cliff.
Into the ocean.
Oh, nobody knows. We haven't agreed anything. We haven't got anything in place. This idea that you can negotiate massive trade deals within a matter of months is laughable. You can't even buy a house in months.
Yeah, there's no power. Like, we don't have power. No. All the Trump, we're going to be nice to Britain because the history, that's all going to evaporate as soon as it comes. Money and power are going to define this, and we're not going to get anything that we think we apparently believe we're entitled to for some reason.
And maybe our protection mechanisms will kick in about 10 years. We'll look back on this and go, well...
But it just turns into, so when are we rejoining? Can we try and get back in the EU? I just feel like, isn't it just now going to be like, how are we going to get back into this thing? Why wouldn't you be in it?
In this world where everything's a bit messed up at the moment, having a European Union of, broadly speaking, sensible policies like, okay, we need to do something about climate change. Let's lead on that. Let's push it forward. We need to do something about plastics. Let's push it. Let's do it. You know, like a market of 500 million has a lot more power than a market of 65 million. That's simple maths.
Yeah.
That's it. And I just think I think business is very concerned overall.
Yeah, there's the uncertainty of individuals, but like business can't make any plans, and it's also being used as an excuse as well, like by a lot of people, like, oh well, Brexit. What? That's got nothing to do.
But you've got to have, you see, as a business, and this is another conversation. I'm stealing words from somebody else who I picked up in conversation. I was talking to somebody about this, and it's like you kind of need to have plans because, let's say, to move your office to Frankfurt, you need to have been sorting out the real estate a year ago. So you kind of need to hedge, and hedging costs money, and that money that might have gone into more jobs or might have gone into pay rises is going to go into protecting the health of the business. And so it'll be like, well, we've got to spend that much money. We've got to pay for a new team over there, and then we've got to do this. And then, you know, it's like, and those decisions will be made on money, not on, oh, well, ideologically, we don't want to move. And then you got, you know, I had this is part of why I came up with this. I was dreaming that I was arguing with Dyson.
Right.
Because he's a bloody, and he being pro-Brexit, and I think he's, I can't remember what his rationale is.
I saw there was Dyson hand dryers in our Greek hotel, I noticed.
But, you know, and he's moving manufacturing to China. I feel like my voice is quite high-pitched in this episode.
It's going to be a high-pitched episode, let's face it.
I can't take it. But I was literally having a dream arguing with Dyson about how he doesn't even, you know, he just doesn't give a stuff. He's just trying to look after himself. But I don't know I don't quite understand what his rationale was. I think that's where it came in.
So have you spoken to anyone? Have you had a conversation with like a person that voted leave that you respect? Have you found anyone to have a conversation with?
No, I've struggled. I think the people, because I get these, you know, people on Twitter. I'm sure if we put this episode out, we had somebody the other day saying a little known fact is that people who are climate change deniers are often more educated than, and I'm like, I'm not talking to you. But the Brexiteers that I have occasionally engaged with on Twitter, because I've really tried that whole, you know, speak nicely and have a discussion. I was like, look, please understand that I'm very concerned about this. I would really like to understand why you are not. Please explain it to me. And I've not found anybody yet. They just kind of go, oh, you silly. You're just being paranoid. You're Ramona, or whatever that phrase is.
A Ramona. Yeah, why can you just use real words, please, people? Like, because you really undermine your
Brexit.
Your position.
The other problem with Brexit is it's such a good word, though. Brexit, it's strong, it's short, it's like, it's clever. Britain, exit, Brexit, hey. And it's just like...
I went into a job in an agency in sort of London Bridge, and like the guy that was like in charge of the team, it emerged that he'd voted leave. Who's sort of like my age, middle class, kind of like he's living outside London, and I was like, right, we're having this. What the hell?
Yeah.
And it was someone, and his rationale was, he said it was a protest vote. I couldn't really understand quite what he was protesting against, but then his whole rationale was, well, I mean, look, nothing's happening, nothing's probably going to change at all, but like at least something's happening now. But also, like, he just didn't think it was going to make any difference ultimately, whatever happened to like day to day. Like this guy, like I do respect it, like. I respect him. I liked him as a person, and it was heartbreaking to me. But we just had to, like, at a certain point, I was just like, well, I mean, I guess that's just okay.
I understand that people feel, what's the word? disillusioned. I mean, I know. So, for example, if we take Derbyshire, that sort of part of the world where my in-laws are, these are ex-mining communities who their coal mining got taken away and the industry was not replaced with anything. So it's just like, well, screw you. And I can understand that they feel let down. And almost certainly their general feeling is that their jobs have been taken by someone. The fact is that your jobs have been taken by your own government, and repeated governments, left or right, have failed to address that. That's what's happened, and it's like
you're blaming the wrong.
You're blaming the wrong. You're blaming some sort of. You're blaming who you're being told to blame.
And you're blaming people. Largely, you're blaming people with no power.
Yeah.
Like you're being told to blame the people who have the least power instead of the people who have the most.
So it's that feeling of total helplessness, of loss of power, of nothing, and I understand that, but I think we all need to be holding the government to task on the fact that the country isn't a better place to live in for more people. It always boils down to inequality and the sort of the mismatch of power and that feeling of, and I saw, with that whole, but the protest vote for me, I've done it, not in a general election. Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was a local after Blair took us to war. I voted for all Green local councillors, which was just stupid, really. Cause really, it's like I didn't punish the Labour Party really by doing that, and I possibly contributed to a bit of instability in my own city, but just because it kind of changed the political platform in a weird way. So I understand the concept of a protest vote. When it was a general election, I think I've been in and just scribbled over them. I was like, I will vote, but I don't like any of you, so screw you all, kind of a thing. But then in a referendum where there's, go and spoil your vote then, or don't, I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it's just I don't know.
There was a powerful Leave campaign. There was a pretty sort of non-existent Remain campaign, because it's just too much stuff. It's just kind of obvious that there's just, where would you even start explaining the benefits of this thing? Well, but like this idea of like Brussels as this ogre forcing us to do things we don't want to do, like we're coming to these agreements with those people. We're part of that. They're not separate from us, Nigel.
Yeah. But so I did go out campaigning for Remain. And I did, but I was I was in Brighton. I did leafleting at Brighton Station. I did
What was the Brighton percent?
Massive, 80. It was a waste. Really, there was little point. There was probably we should have been off.
In Brent, where I am, it was like 69 or something.
Yeah.
Like, and then like Nottingham was like Leave.
Yeah.
But like the borough that I lived in, that I grew up in, was like just on the Remain side.
So
like,
that's where we should. But what was interesting, even on the subject of no campaign. So at Brighton Station, handing out leaflets, and I'm like, yeah, of course, you bet I will. Few people with foreign accents going, I wish I could vote, da da da. And then, but the people that were going to vote Leave, like this bloke, sort of middle-aged. Maybe a bit old. I say middle-aged because I'm thinking of somebody older than me, but perhaps that's me. A tall man with lots of grey hair and quite a few wrinkles. No. He was like, maybe he was in his 50s. Don't know what that is. Anyway, he was walking to me. He went, not on your life. Was he going to vote Remain? Right. And then I was like, well, why? Come and talk to me. And he wasn't going to stay and talk to me.
Terrorists.
Yeah, and then these four builders walked by and they were like, they said something snarky. But I had my child with me on my backpack, one of those carriers, and I don't think they were going to come and F and blind at me because she was also, it wasn't appropriate, but they sort of shouted something leery and carried on walking. So, but nobody who actually wanted to engage, and I was out multiple times, and on the referendum day I was out door knocking, getting people, anyone who'd sort of got a predisposition to vote Remain. You address the people that might not agree with you well in advance of the election.
Right. And then hope they forget
if you don't change their mind, hope they forget to go and vote. Because that's democracy, people. But yeah, but you know, there was no particularly, and it just makes me. If somebody's having a silly argument, or what I consider to be, with my highfalutin self, considered to be a silly argument, like because, and then I tried to have a debate on Facebook, but at a couple, but it's just a very difficult. It's a very difficult. But I think if we you know, if we don't call out, it's the same with like trying to, you know, stop people being racist and sexist. You do have to go, excuse me, you can't say that. Otherwise, you're just part of it. It's the same with people making ridiculous statements on the internet about stuff. You have to go, no. Otherwise, I don't know how because, you know, I think, if anything, pushing for this second referendum sounds like the only way we're going to be able to backtrack out of this mess.
It's weird how Theresa May and that lot seems so kind of, no, this is happening. Like, you'd have thought they'd be scrabbling for ways to
what fascinates
let people
me,
have a second. But then you look, like even weeks, months afterwards, I was like, I'm sure, you know, I'm sure everyone must have realised what a mistake this was. Let's see and you find a poll, and it was still kind of pro-leave.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure about polls and who does them and why.
Okay.
But
anyway.
But I think one of the things that I find really disingenuous is that the people have spoken and therefore we must give them Brexit. The people have also asked for decent free education, yet we have ongoing cuts to schools. People have also asked for a decent welfare state, which you continue to cut. People have also asked for an NHS to be properly funded, and you continue to give us, gave us Jeremy Hunt for far too long. Who doesn't give, it's like, what is it? If people ask for some things, and what about Brexit suits our current government so much that they are pursuing it? What is the underlying motivation? Why are they not just going, oh, sorry, can't have Brexit, in the same way that we're going to cut hundreds,
It's not even illegal. It's not even
legally binding. No.
Yeah, is it?
No.
Is it even a thing? Like, why? What is this?
Well,
and it obviously it's so telling that the people that were like spearheading the Leave campaign immediately vanished as soon as it happened.
Well, and then that Aaron Banks gets done for overspending on the Leave campaign. But what punishment? None. Doesn't matter. It's the same as, as one of life's occasional chances, ask for forgiveness, not permission, sometimes is a thing in a workplace. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. It's like, what he's done is he's overspent on a Leave campaign, which is illegal in our democracy, in our United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But mea culpa, I'm sorry. It's like, what? I've not... So it doesn't matter, because it's been done now, and the influence that overspend had has been done. It's been influenced. So it's kind of, it doesn't matter now that it was illegal, but him being all arsey about it and saying that he's going to argue, it's like, just shut up. You did a thing, you got away with it, now just shut up.
We are listening to these people now. We're kind of aware that I wasn't really aware there were so many unhappy people with the current kind of status quo, because it was suiting me okay. Like, I was doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay out of it. Like, I learned computers. It's making us listen.
Yeah, true.
But you sort of want to say, okay, but can we maybe not do can we do a different idea to solve this, to make you feel better? Like,
yeah, but that's what I was saying about the Trump thing. I was like, if we get to, I'll take Brexit if it means that Americans don't elect Trump, like if the American moderates learn something, and therefore from us. But that didn't happen either, so I'm not sure yet. And you're right, there's better political engagement in the country. These are the positives. But then I was thinking the other day that maybe we need to do something that helps people distinguish what fake news is, like what it looks like, how you know that a thing that got shared with you on Facebook is just nonsense and that person never said that.
Although some stuff is hard to fact check. If it's like a new story that hasn't been kicking around long enough to be in Snopes or like kind of to have anyone kind of look at it. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we're having this conversation as well on the day that the Irish are voting to change their abortion laws. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because that is a big deal, and it'd be interesting to see if, you know, this gets to be one of the first things going in the right direction.
Yeah, you just want some hope, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I want to see that, you know, I know that, I don't know if it's that, you know, thousands, hundreds of thousands of Irish people with the right to vote are flying home to vote for this. They are going to Ireland to try and change this archaic law. But I want to see it come good. I need it, I think.
The battle for the hearts and minds of people has never been more visible. It's never felt more urgent.
No.
It's like it's not secret stuff happening behind closed doors. It's out in the open a lot more than it's ever been. But, you know, maybe this is forwards. Maybe this is what happens once you start to kind of open out enough and things become public enough, and like the playing field becomes a bit more leveled, and now anyone can kind of create a campaign to try and, you know, do what they want to do. Part of me hopes that this is like a step, like something that happens when you're moving in a positive direction, and that it will be overcome. But like, I mean, it's a big thing to change, and it's going to be the rest of my lifetime. You know, it's our lives, and now like that's our future's just been like irrevocably like fucked with, for want of a better word.
Well, there's just uncertainty for all of us now, which I think most certainty is kind of false. But
yes, this is true.
But still, you know, without being too philosophical about it, there is blatant uncertainty, and then there's just general uncertainty that there exists within life, where you really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But, you know, you kind of imagine you're living within, you know, reasonably fixed set of circumstances.
Well, it's that is my singularity idea of like that its predictability is at its lowest ever.
Yeah.
Like, and that's part, and I think that ties into technological progress and globalization, media, like social internet. All this stuff is kind of accelerating change, making things harder and harder to make any plans about. So, okay, well, I mean, Brexit or not, like, there's still so many. Maybe that was just a false certainty anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If she really stood as large in life as in his mind, she'd topple buildings when she breathed. Her whispers would echo through the streets.
I don't want to put like a bow on this, because the whole point is not to stop thinking about it. What did you vote for, listener? Whatever. I don't care if you. If you're gonna engage us, can you not say Ramona?
Yeah, don't call me Ramona.
Can you use real just words that existed before this? If you don't, you know, Britain's decision to leave the European Union. If you can say that instead of Brexit, that would make me happy as well. It might not fit.
Yeah.
Twitter's 280 characters now, so that shouldn't be a problem.
No, loads of spares.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
That was a subject that both of us, you know. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
If you like the podcast, you can find us grandpodcast.com. And there's links to our social media on there, such as Twitter, Instagram, and so on. YouTube. You can also find the podcast on Spotify and all over the place, everywhere there's podcasts. Where can people find you, Ivanka?
Find me at Ivanka on Twitter. And if you like our podcast, telling other people about our podcast is a really cool and kind thing to do. So please do, just get people listening so that we get more input.
If you like anything we've said, please tweet a quote.
Yes.
That's something some people do. And then we'll know which things that we said that were good, if any. And of course, we could be wrong. Maybe we're wrong. But come to us with reasoned debate. If you're not prepared to actually have a conversation about the difficult things, then probably not going to engage that much. But we could be wrong about all of this. Maybe Brexit is the best idea in the world.
If somebody could give me some good, good sides of Brexit that I can start clutching onto, I'd be delighted. I really would.
Yeah, me too. Like, if I could feel good about this,
I'd be so happy.
go for it.
So please,
if you honestly feel good about Brexit,
give us some top
Let's
two.
share the love.
What top one reason? Doesn't have to be even like a top 10 or top 3. Just top one.
Sovereignty. Fuck off.
Michael, that is no
come to us
way
and say
to engage people.
Sovereignty. No. All right. You can also find me, michaelforrestmusic.com, and listen to some music that I made ages ago because I need to record some new stuff, probably. Whatever. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Bye, bye, bye.
I know how it feels to be betrayed, to have your future torn away. Torn And I used to have some faith in people to tell apart what's the news and what's fiction. They couldn't really think that this is real. I crank on the TV saying, here's the ones to blame when things don't go your way, when they're the ones we should be trying to save. But you went and made it real. You caught me by surprise. I try to recognize how we ended up with all this trouble. I guess I stayed away from what the awful papers say. I stayed inside my bubble, and if I saw a post I didn't like, I didn't say. When it's so easy to unfollow, I couldn't overhear the echo chambers of my neighbors. Perhaps I could have helped them with their struggle, though. Did you take me on your spaceship? I wanna exit planet Earth. 'Cause everybody's going racist, forgetting what life is worth. You've only been gone for a minute, and only left us in a pretty big world. And now I see the human race is rolling in a retrograde. Gonna need a better way. The system's had its day. We got a lot to rearrange. Times ahead will be full of pain, and when it's over, none of us will ever be the same. I hope that we can all be brave. The fear we have to face, this maniac in charge of everything. Oh no, this could be too much for me to take.